Imagine waking up one day to find the world has changed, quite literally spinning off its axis. You glance at the clock, but time feels different, not just the hours slipping away, but the very fabric of reality itself. This isn't a dystopian movie plot. What if Earth actually stopped spinning? As captivating as it sounds, the consequences would be catastrophic, reshaping not only our environment but also our very existence. Today, we're diving into the intriguing repercussions of a world where our planet ceases its rotation. You might be wondering, how could something so momentous occur? The reality is that our planet has been rotating since its formation about 4.5 billion years ago. We spin at an impressive speed, approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Now, imagine if that all came to a jarring halt. Think about it. The laws of physics dictate that inertia would carry everything not anchored to the ground at breakneck speed. So, picture this: people, animals, trees, buildings, all being flung eastward, hurtling through space at over 1,000 miles an hour. Would you find yourself tumbling through your neighborhood or gripping the nearest lamppost for dear life? The very thought sends a shiver down your spine. But how fast would things change? Let's take a step back and look into what would unfold in those first moments. You see, once the Earth stops spinning, the atmosphere isn't immediately affected. Our atmosphere continues to move at its original velocity. There would be an unprecedented and sustained windstorm as the air tries to catch up to a planet that suddenly came to a standstill. Picture hurricane-force winds, up to 1,500 miles per hour, unleashing their fury all around us. Would buildings stand the test? Would our infrastructure even be able to endure such a tempest? But that's just the beginning. The sheer inertia of the water in our oceans would lead to unprecedented tidal waves and flooding. Imagine the waves rising up to a staggering height, crashing into every shoreline, displacing countless lives and wiping out entire cities. And while these incredible forces lash out at the coasts, you might wonder, what happens to the inhabitants of these regions? Could anyone escape the rising tide? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? What comes next will leave you speechless. As Earth remains still, we would experience something profoundly unsettling. Daylight and darkness would stretch into extremes. The day would last 6 months, followed by an equally long night. Picture this: on one side of the planet, temperatures would soar, leading to blistering heat. Can you even imagine living through a half year of relentless sun? Crops would wither, ecosystems would collapse, and an unimaginable drought would follow. On the flip side, while the days baked, the nights would plunge into an intense, frigid cold. As you shiver under layers of blankets in the dark, how would humanity cope with an eternal winter? Could we even survive such extremes? The consequences wouldn't affect just the surface. Our very atmosphere would change dramatically. The disruptions in climatic patterns would lead to an end to the predictable weather that we take for granted. Do we even know how we would adapt to these new realities? Let's dive deeper into how our daily lives would shift. Could our societal structures endure the turmoil? With food production plummeting due to the intense conditions, famine would become a global crisis. Would governments collapse under the pressure of daily survival? As resources dwindle, nations would turn against one another, fighting for what we need to sustain life. Picture the global chaos, the race for food and water, the desperation that fuels humanity's darkest instincts. Would we return to a state of primal survival, or could we find a way to unite in the face of disaster? You see, the gravity of this situation amplifies when you consider our technological dependencies. The power grids that we rely upon would be devastated. Communication systems going down, what would that mean for the world? Cities dark and deserted, silent except for the echo of their former lives. Would these changes push us to rediscover lost skills, those once deemed unnecessary in the fast-paced world we've grown accustomed to? Forks and knives won't sustain life if there's no food, after all. Here's something you didn't expect. Imagine the psychological toll of such an event. The human mind isn't built to cope with extreme shifts in reality. Would people hold on to their sanity amidst darkness and despair? Communities could either collapse or forge new bonds in adversity. We might witness a resurgence of spirituality or new philosophies as humanity searches for meaning in a world gone awry. An interesting thought, isn't it? And what about the wildlife? The consequences of a standstill would ripple through nature as well. Many species wouldn't be able to adapt quickly enough to these dramatic changes. What happens to our beloved ecosystems when their delicate balance is thrown into chaos? This isn't just about the plants and animals, it's about us, interwoven within the fabric of this fragile world. But wait, could there be a silver lining, a chance for rebirth amid the chaos? As the nights grow cold and the days become unbearably hot, it's possible that new life forms could adapt to these extreme conditions over time. Nature has a way of bouncing back, finding niches in even the harshest environments. Imagine, several generations down the line, descendants of today learning to thrive in a world that once shattered around us. Might this serve as a humbling reminder of our place in the universe, emphasizing the importance of balance in our ecosystems? As we grapple with societal collapse and the new reality of environmental chaos, humankind's ingenuity will undoubtedly be tested. Historically, we've faced numerous ecological and societal challenges. Will we rise to the occasion with resilience and creativity, or will we succumb to fear, distrust, and despair? One cannot help but ponder, would we rekindle lost arts? People might return to farming methods and artisan skills, connecting with the land in a way that we've lost it in many parts of the world today. These ancient practices could forge a stronger bond with our food sources, promoting sustainability and community-based living. But how long could we endure those initial challenges before reclaiming a semblance of civilization anchored by simplicity? This all circles back to the fact that rapid, unexpected change shatters illusions of control. One moment, we are the masters of technology, the next, we become its victims. As we navigate through this apocalyptic reality, how would humanity redefine progress? Would we strip away the excesses and focus on survival? But here's a question for you, in this imagined world, would you join the fight to reclaim the Earth? The takeaways from this hypothetical scenario remain daunting yet enlightening. They unveil our vulnerabilities and strengths as a species. It compels us to confront what we regard as essential and unnecessary in our current lives, stirring hidden potentials laying dormant within humanity. Now, just when you might think the situation has spiraled into the depths of hopelessness, remember that resilience is perhaps the strongest part of human nature. We've faced adversity throughout history, wars, pandemics, natural disasters, and somehow, we continue to endure. This potential for resilience could be the key to our survival, a spark of hope in a bleak panorama. But the question remains, as we grapple with our limitations and engage with our capabilities, how would we redefine relationships with nature, each other, and ourselves? How do we bring forth compassion in the face of adversity? As we plunge deeper into this exploration of life on a non-spinning Earth, remember that every insight we gather further prepares us for the conclusion of this discussion. In Part 2, we will unravel the complexities of newfound relationships, delve into technological advancements, and consider the long-term adaptations that humanity would have to cultivate to survive. The unfolding narrative promises to be nothing short of riveting. So, hold on tight, this journey is only just beginning. As we plunge deeper into this exploration of life on a non-spinning Earth, it's crucial to consider how newfound relationships with nature, each other, and ourselves would evolve. Humanity would be thrust into an unprecedented struggle for survival, forcing us to reevaluate our priorities and redefine our interactions. Would we adopt a more collective mindset, moving away from the individualism that often dominates societal structures? After all, when the stakes are highest, collaboration could become the cornerstone of recovery. Imagine communities banding together to cultivate small patches of arable land, utilizing rediscovered farming methods to combat the harsh conditions. Urban dwellers might find themselves relocating to rural areas in search of food, shelter, and safety. As they settle into new rhythms, the bonds forged through shared toil could create intimate networks of mutual support. Neighbors transformed into companions, families united through the struggle for resources. It's a poignant vision that highlights the strength found in unity amidst chaos. Yet, the question of governance rises like a tide amid the wreckage. Would we see the emergence of new systems, perhaps more localized governance models based on consensus and cooperation? In times past, people relied on community councils, tribal governance, or even barter economies. It's conceivable that those concepts could resurface, mimicking ancient practices to create a framework that responds to the immediate needs of the people. Just how adaptable might we become when faced with such drastic changes? Meanwhile, technology would find itself at a crossroads. Stripped of its conveniences, would it evolve to serve basic human needs instead? Picture engineers and scientists turning their talents toward practical solutions, developing energy sources that harness natural phenomena or creating sustainable water purification methods using rudimentary materials. Might we finally embrace a circular economy, learning to maximize resources and minimize waste as the world teaches us the value of conservation? As time progresses, fascinating shifts could occur in our perception of the natural world. The transformation into a life dictated by the elements, cyclical patterns of light and dark, and the harshness of temperature, might spark a newfound reverence for our planet. How long could we proceed in such dire circumstances before we realize that nurturing the earth is not just an act of survival, but, rather, a necessity for our coexistence? Observing our relationship with wildlife during these trying times opens yet another window into potential adaptation. As species struggle to survive in changing habitats and conditions, perhaps a different equilibrium will emerge. Would humans begin to approach animals not just as resources, but as partners in sharing spaces and resources? With communities facing the threat of extinction themselves, could we see a shift from dominance to coexistence? Consider this: as we erect makeshift gardens and farms, there may be room for wildlife to thrive along with us. Gardens could attract bees and other essential pollinators, while waterways might flourish in ways forgotten in our urbanized past. This could lead to incredibly rich biodiversity that evolves in response to our actions. Imagine a world where we not only survive but foster life in harmony with nature, a breathtaking juxtaposition of resilience and rebirth. While envisioning this potential for revitalized relationships, the forgiveness of past transgressions surfaces, prompting humanity to confront environmental mistakes. Could the crisis give birth to a new ecological awareness? Would landscapes once marred by pollution and destruction become the focus of restoration efforts? The redemption arc of the planet's ecosystems could unfold, offering healing for both Earth and those who inhabit it. But, amidst all this transformation, psychological consequences would still loom large as a dark cloud. How does one move past trauma when the very world feels alien? While new communities emerge, unresolved grief and loss could lead to a multitude of mental health challenges. The reorientation of society demands not just physical resilience but emotional fortitude as well. Would we rally to support one another, creating safe spaces for dialogue, acceptance, and healing? Would art, music, and storytelling re-emerge as essential means of processing our shared trauma? Across generations, the narratives shaped today would impact the fabric of culture, myths, legends, and stories built upon shared struggles. In this chaotic narrative, how would children be raised? Would they grow up steeped in teachings about the importance of nature and sustainability? Would their innocence be tempered by the harsh realities of survival, yet imbued with a sense of hope fostered by their community's ability to adapt? History has shown us that humanity has extraordinary resilience. As we witness daily struggles, we cannot ignore small victories, the rebuilding of cities, the rediscovery of ancient practices, the successful collaboration of diverse communities. With every triumph, hopes transform into tangible pathways leading toward recovery. A legacy of resourcefulness is poised to take root, carrying lessons that have stood the test of time, reminding us that progress should be multifaceted and expansive. Revisiting the concept of progress, the stark contrast to our pre-catastrophe existence could reshape our definition entirely. Perhaps progress would cease to be a linear pursuit of individual gain, a quest for bigger and faster, but instead a collective endeavor centered on shared well-being. In a world with no choice but to come together, community, cooperation, and support would evolve into our most cherished metrics. Yet another layer worth examining is spirituality and how crises can challenge existing belief systems, giving rise to new philosophies and practices. Historically, during tumultuous times, cultures have often turned to spirituality as a refuge. In the wake of a non-spinning Earth, what new forms of belief might emerge? Could we find ourselves reevaluating our relationship with divinity, nature, and the universe? Would ancient beliefs resurface, resonating with a resurgence of natural bonds? Perhaps, in the struggle for survival, many would seek solace in deeper connections, awakening to a consciousness that highlights our shared journey amid the chaos. As the tale of humanity on a non-spinning Earth unfolds, an engaging question emerges: how would we hold on to hope? Amid extreme challenges and turmoil, would we allow fear to dominate our existence, or would we dare to envision a future beyond survival? As a narrative steeped in struggle concludes, the promise of resilience, adaptation, and healing glimmers in the distance, a beacon amid a tempest. Perhaps through the tapestry of relationships, humanity's response to trauma would pave the way for a richer understanding of existence, an appreciation for every facet of life we often take for granted. Looking toward the future raises yet another conundrum: how do we rebuild? In this harrowing scenario, would we find ourselves yearning for new structures, both in physical form and societal constructs? A growing understanding that fostering connection and community nurtures survival could inspire platforms wherein shared resources become the foundation of rebirth. Could technologies born out of necessity guide us toward eco-friendly solutions while honoring the past? To arrive at a resolution for this exploration, we must recognize that the repercussions of an Earth not spinning would resonate deeply within the human psyche, society, and the natural world. Each layer we peel back unveils the interconnectedness of our fates and the responsibility we hold as stewards of the planet. In the final analysis, the thought experiment of a non-spinning Earth serves as a profound reminder: the fragility and resilience of life exist in tandem. The willingness to adapt, rethink our values, and embrace the compassion innate in human experience can steer us toward a future worth striving for, demonstrating the boundless potential awaiting within us. So, as we conclude this journey through dystopian and transformative visions, let these questions stir our imagination. In a world turned inside out, how will you contribute to the tapestry of humanity's next chapter? Will you join the fight to reclaim a planet renewed, where compassion, cooperation, and interconnectedness replace mere existence with true purpose and harmony? As we close this exploration of possibilities, remember this: the future remains unwritten, a canvas upon which we can freely paint our greatest aspirations, as long as we are willing to learn, grow, and, above all, adapt. The resilience of the human spirit shines brightest when faced with the wild unknown. May we always have the courage to envision a better world, even when the ground beneath us shifts dramatically. The journey toward a new beginning awaits. Are you ready to take that first step?